Welcome to Sarvepalli Bros podcast, episode 1, How to Reduce Token Costs in AI and Use Them Effectively. So, this is Murli. On the other side, we have Ashok Kumar.
Hey bro, how are you? How are things at your end?
Yeah, it's good.
Oh, really good with all the Claude things and all.
Yeah. How
Fine.
are the things there?
Kind of different, right? With people expectation, with Claude code, they want to finish, wrap things in the software industry within a day, and a lot of things. Particularly here in Bay Area, things are moving very rapidly, faster. But you guys are enjoying, right? You guys got a new CM.
Yeah, he also added one ministry for AI.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
Let's see what he does in the next 5 years.
Okay. So today, I think what is our topic?
Today, let's discuss about tokens and how to save those. So, in today's AI world, everyone is talking about these tokens, right? So,
Hmm.
as far as we know, token is an unit of measurement where we can measure the cost of using the AI.
Okay. Did your guys in your company they are budgeting the tokens for employees? So everyone has some particular budget, right? So it's everywhere.
Yes. So initially they used to give access and leverage for all the models. So anyone can use any model and send in an n number of prompts. But now they are limiting it because of the budget. The API costs are shooting up. So every engineer now has to take a step back and they have to think.
The tokens effectively, right?
Yes, instead of blindly using the AI, so that world is gone now. So we are stepping into another new technology or new skill on how effectively we can use AI.
That's right. Yeah. So I think we can jump into quickly on the couple of items like how to use the token usage recently, right? Like, for example, what are the effective ways so that you can control the cost, control the token usage, so that you can do more with less cost, both as a company or you guys are working on some individual projects on interest, anything, right? Yeah. So
Sure,
any
sure.
specific question you have, like how to use or any techniques you want to touch upon, or you follow any particular techniques you would have learned about more on CLI was MCP, right?
Yeah, so in our organization, we have built quite a number of MCP servers, but we are not sure how many of them are really helpful. MCP servers are great, so to connect to APIs and tools and get responses and all those things. But I heard there are few other options like CLI where you can directly integrate the APIs with Claude CLI and you can get the responses back.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
that's right. Yeah. So to touch upon that, right? CLI is more like a model comes with pre-trained bash commands. For example, you have a git command. So you don't need a git MCP to connect, right? So you take a git command, you do a git clone and everything. The difference lies in the number of tokens. So for example, a git command, if you use an MCP, the REST API and the tokens do cost more. It's the same way if you use a git command with a pre-trained model, the model no need to fetch the MCPs, the API mechanism, nothing, right? It uses its plain bash natural way of communicating. That's where they say wherever the CLI is applicable, not only Git. There are many things like a G Cloud. You don't need a Google SDK or API as an MCP. So if you have a G Cloud and if you have anything, it can use those bash commands with a CLI and then it can hit and you can get it. That is one of the use case. So MCP is only needed when you typically have a third party system where there is no bash or git commands or shell commands that are available, right? So that is a place where you actually put a MCP deployed and then you need to use it. Otherwise, the recommendation is always go to the CLI that will save your tokens. So that is one approach. So anything else you hit recently, like debugging an issue or something recently that happened?
yeah. So in one of my projects, there is an entire code base which is very huge and very complex. Say, for example, I have to develop or enhance that code base. For example, there is one feature which I need to develop from the existing code base, and I try to give it to Claude using Claude Code, and reading that entire code base took large number of tokens from the Claude site. Is there any way to avoid that? So because every time when I need to enhance a new feature, sometimes it has memory, but if the memory is not there, every time it starts reading the code base again and again fully. So how to avoid that?
Right, yeah, that's a good point. So that is one kind of thing. So you have a very large code base and you want to, because Claude is based on a session, right? You start today, couple of days you come back again. The session may not be available that time, right? Session may be disconnected.
Yeah, we may be diverted to some other user story or some other task, and if we
Yeah.
come back again after 3 or 4 days, and this happens.
Yeah. So the new session, when you open, this context will not be there. That's the first thing we need to understand. So where do you store there? That is where skill comes into the play, right? So you create a skill, like that means you start a session where you start working with the AI model. Hey, these are the things the AI model understands. If you see within the same session, sometimes compacting happens. That is also some hard sign, right? Like When compacting happens, it kinds of loses a little bit of memory. It remembers like a human, like very high level. So even before that hits, you need to occasionally make sure you start a skill file, which is nothing but a README file kind of thing, like our documentation. You just start like high level architecture skill. What are the steps you did in the session? Keep storing in your repo or a skill repository. So next time when you bring it up, you just load the skill, and two things you achieve there. You achieve that saving your time. No need to tell everything for the model taking that. Second, the important thing is the token cost. So now the model already knows what to do. So it no need to read through the entire code, right? So that's where if you see, it doesn't read the code entirely. For that particular issue, for that particular architecture, it knows what to do a grep commands. Like it search the particular file within the things, it search particular concepts, right? And give it to you. Another example I can give you, like let's say there is a production issue. You do debugging, you pull up the Splunk logs. Within the Splunk logs, you have a lot of things. You trace with a particular trace ID, for example, an issue. You figured out an issue, right? Now you figured out an issue, you provided the solution. Done. So instead of done for the day, the last step is once you do, just save that as a skill, right? In your repo or push it to a Git repo, maintain a skill repository, or within that particular, now the standard might be within the particular API itself, people create a lot of bunch of skills, right? Teams contribute. So next time when you come, the same issue happens, you load the skill, it's gonna run quickly, it's gonna save your token and as well as time.
When you say you want to save it as a skill, what are the things exactly you're going to save? So the issue differs from day by day, right? So the next day, it's not going to be the same issue.
It's a good point. So two things, right? For production kind of issues, yes, the issue differs, but the context remains same, right? Like Splunk logs and queries. For example, it needs to know which index it has to search. So you should not put the same skill and blindly ask, hey, this could be an issue or may not be the issue. What you need to do is you need to put, this is how I triggered the issue. These are the Splunk queries. So now this is the new issue. You want to see approach and save that also as a skill. As the time progress, you build all these things, it will read only the skill files and it's able to establish and give you a concrete solution. But for the architecture, for the initial use case you brought up, right? For the architecture point of view, you save that architecture like a README file. We used to write a README file before the Claude code time, right? So those README files, those things will not change until the code is completely changed, right? So that's the thing. So I think at this moment for the software engineers, as the expectation in the industry is grown up, like people, I don't know, they think like magic, like it happens in a day, but honestly not, right? System still's there, we need to design and put, but for us to move 3x 4x velocity, I think these things we need to know how to use this AI efficiently.
And regarding CLIs, what are the options already available in Cloud? Apart from Git, Gcloud, and Google
Many, right?
tools.
Even for AWS, any major vendor comes with bash commands already. Cloud, it's smart in it. It actually prefers that nowadays. It takes CLIs first, then only it goes to MCP. If something is not there, then it will search. Because why MCP tokens cost more is it's the API format itself, the REST standard format, the templates. So those things
Yeah,
itself,
you have to send a payload and get
payroll
back.
and return, everything costs token. So token is generally, if you see, maybe we could have started with explaining token. Maybe we can put another session for token itself. But we assume that people know what is a token. It's generally a word, right? A 3 to 4 characters in ChatGPT. If you say just that is a token. So let's say you send a big paragraph of 200. So you're burning 200 tokens. So you would be cost based upon the token.
One more discussion I would like to bring in on model side from Claude. So everyone is talking about Claude Opus model. Recently, they have released 4.8.
Yeah.
If you are aware of that, I think a couple of days back they have released it and they are testing the benchmarks already. So how would you differentiate between the Claude models in terms of token cost? Which type of task we should use Opus and for which type of task people should use Sonnet? So many people are confused between those two models. Most people think that Sonnet is very ineffective. So they start using Opus because people's mindset would be
You
always
would
to use
always
the
use the
best
larger one,
available
right?
model.
Yeah, larger
Yeah.
models burn larger number of tokens, I believe. For example, I just started a Claude Code terminal. It says you're going to use 2x if you use Opus 4.7 itself, right? So for a simple kind of task, even for a simple type of task, you see, you don't even need a such type of Claude code. Suppose you want to clean up your hard drive, you want to build something, consolidate your files. In fact, you can build your own local, you can download an open source LLM. These are LLMs, right? In your computer, and that itself can do this. You don't even need a Claude for that. Okay. So for very simple
Exactly.
things, always do use a simpler ones. That too, when you build systems in softwares, right? So these are we are talking about conversations with Claude. But what if you build through APIs a larger agentic system? You need to be mindful like which flows you will use a smaller, people call small language model, smaller SLM or LLM with a very 8 billion parameters or some which is very cheap in nature. And for really large complex tasks is when you need to use. Otherwise, you will, if you use for everything, you will definitely burn out the tokens. That's another good point. Yeah, like the model is also does matter in terms of
Yeah, say people are working on 9 story points in a sprint, and say three of them are very complex. So 3 story points, they have to work on a very complex code base, and they have to read through every part of the code to complete that user story. For that case, they can use Opus, and if rest of the things are very simpler and doesn't require model expertise, they can go ahead and use the other models also, right? Like GPT or any other available model.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, for example, generating a report or pulling a simpler model should be quite enough, right? So, when it need to a deep research, right? Like some
Yes.
analytics, some marketing analytics, strategies you need to build. That time, yeah, definitely you need to go for the model with higher.
Sure, this is very informative. Can we summarize
Yeah.
today's
So,
topic? We have token cost and how to reduce them, right? So,
sure.
just on a
Yeah.
high level, what are the approaches that we have discussed?
So, three ways we discussed. One is skills. So you need to, whenever you complete a task, don't, I mean, just make sure you summarize it clearly and write it in a skill, right? Second one, I believe we discussed about CLI versus MCP. So third one is, I think you brought up a good point of choosing a wise model, right? So when you choose a particular wise model, you need to make sure which task you're going to do that, right? If it is a complex task, then only you can go with Opus. Otherwise, in fact speaking, you don't even need a Claude for very simple tasks. Suppose you
Yeah,
develop a model within the organization with, let's say, it just does a simple task of classification, right? See, think about pre-LLM era. There were models already, right? So there are models for, let's say, simple classification. People build a model like you want to classify items. You don't need, again, for everything, you don't need an LLM. You can build a local model, and simple model inferencing itself would serve you. So that's the things you try to make and save the cost of the tokens
yeah, it's
effectively.
very great. So, thanks for summarizing these 3 points. Okay, great. So, today we discussed about tokens and how to save cost on tokens in today's AI world. Let's discuss about another interesting topic in the next episode of this podcast. If you are interested in knowing about more AI discussions, please follow Sarvepalli Bros. Thank you, Ashok.
Thank you, bro.
Let's meet again.